Jasmine went through her appointment book again, checking to see if she had remembered everything. She made a special note inside her book with a little asterisk beside it. Have Jim sign in at door. Jim had called her earlier that morning from Frankfurt, saying it was an emergency and he needed to speak with her today, face to face. He seemed determined enough, and since he was willing to make a 5 hour trip to Munich, the least she could do was see him. But as she made it clear to Jim earlier, he'd have to meet her backstage at the show that night. Jericho had been almost silent on their trip together in the van to the show tonight. Jericho, if this works out, will have more than just Never Alone to concentrate on. Think about it. Jasmine blurted out, trying to plead her case. Yeah, but why is it important for you to do this sellout shit? Jazz, I mean, you don't even like that techno junk, Jericho said, concentrating on the road as he sat behind the driver's seat, still not convinced. Jasmine knew that this really was about because she had worked with Slam and Screw for her project. Jericho assumed that's what she wanted to do now. Go for the guild? Jericho, come on. Don't start getting all woofy on me, Jasmine teased. Just as soon as this project takes off, then we, so cool, can get into the studio and concentrate on the R&B tunes. I'm still with it, baby, but I just had to give out a little payback with that Wolfgang shit, man. I just couldn't let that go, and you know that. Jasmine's plan all came about after she realized what tools she had to fight Wolfgang with. Twyla's attorney friend told her the contract that she'd signed, greedy ass, with Wolfgang was ironclad. And if she were foolish enough to take Wolfgang to court and she lost, which he assured her she would certainly do, she would have to pay for the court cost of both she and Wolfgang's fees, both parties. Germany didn't mess around, but Jasmine refused to admit defeat. After turning it over at least 1,000 times in her mind, she came up with a solution. What did the people at the magazine say when you called back today? Jericho questioned. Well, they didn't want to commit themselves and make it appear to be a conspiracy against Wolfgang, but they did say that they'd have a photographer there and they would make sure to give him the tip. Jasmine said, hoping that Jericho's interest now signaled his complete cooperation. But even as she spoke of the plan to Jericho, she realized how hollow her words sounded. Jazz, they was gonna have somebody there taking pictures anyway. They just tell you anything. They ain't serious, Jericho said, slapping the steering wheel and looking defeated. Jericho, please. Saddam gave me his word that everything was set up. All I have to do is show up, Jasmine stated with a case closed resolve in her voice. Well, here we are, Jazz lady. You ready to show 'em what you got? Jericho said with a smile as the van rounded the corner of the crowded street and they saw what looked like 30,000 German teenage boys and girls. Damn, Jazz, I thought you said it don't start till 7. That's in 2 hours. What all these kids doing here now? Jericho said. He slammed on his brakes to avoid hitting two kids who jetted by on a motorcycle. Ain't no way I'm getting this here van down this here street tonight. At least not till they open up them doors and let these kids inside, he concluded. Yeah, and from what I heard on the radio, some of the kids camped out overnight to make sure to be one of the first inside. Since the tickets were general admission, they'll have to jockey for position as soon as the doors open. Jasmine half laughed at the thought. Well, all supposed to be here anyway. Jericho questioned as he did a slow motion U turn, maneuvering the van as the crowd parted like ants to let them turn back around in the opposite direction. Let's see. Slam and Screw, La Bouche, Magic Affair, The Fantastischen Fear, Marky Mark, and that Prince somebody that sang with Marky Mark. And oh yeah, Dr. Alban. And they got Wolf and his funky gang as the headliner act. Jasmine answered. Then she pointed out the sign that read backstage and an arrow pointing the way. Okay, cool. Just like when I did that gig with Kenny Loggins in Miami that time, Jericho began to tell the Footloose story again. Jasmine tuned him out and just gave him a few token chuckles during his story of how he taught Kenny Loggins to dance. She had to concentrate more in the present or the immediate future. What Jasmine planned to pull off tonight at this show with the help of a gang of her own was going to rock Wolfgang's world. It was 7:15 and the crowd was pumped. 30,000 people had been invited and 37,000 showed up. The audience seemed to be sweltering in the heat enclosed arena. Not even 1 hour into the show, an ambulance team had to carry out two kids who were rumored to have taken some bad ecstasy and fallen into comas. Ecstasy was usually the drug of choice with the young ravers, but it proved to be more like playing Russian roulette with your body, as it was not uncommon to get a hold of a bad mix. In Jasmine's opinion, any chemical drug was potentially lethal, but no one listened to her in that regard. It was also rumored backstage that some kid had tried to climb up on one of the tall lighting scaffolds which were set up near the back of the arena to accommodate Wolfgang's laser light show, and the kid had fallen and broken his neck. This crowd was crazy already. There were people parading backstage. Some were in groups sharing a hash joint, and some in pairs chatting. A few were ducking in and out of the three larger dressing rooms provided to the top stars. Yes, even VIPs had a VIP section. Jasmine checked with the backstage doorman for the third time to see if either Jim or Saddam had arrived, and she just hadn't seen them yet. But he assured her they hadn't checked in. She wasn't in any concern about Jim as she was about Saddam. Wolfgang and Renata had just arrived, with just a half hour before they were to go on stage. Good. Jasmine had had more than enough time to get the videotape of the music video, which Saddam paid big bucks to finance, to Stefan, the guy in charge of the videos, tonight. Stefan said Wolfgang owed him over 15,000 marks from a tour that Stefan had done with Wolfgang, and was eager when he heard through Slam and Screw of how Jasmine had a plan to get Wolfgang. It seemed old Mr. Wolfgang man had messed over a lot of people. When word got out that Jasmine, Slam, and Screw had come up with a plan, people were calling to volunteer their services. It all came as no surprise to Jasmine. Slam came running over to her to where she and Jericho were standing and observing quietly, and gave her the cue she was waiting for to get ready to join them on stage for their song. She removed the dark cape she'd been wearing to reveal a short, yellow satin boxer type robe loosely tied at the waist. Underneath it, she wore a black thong bikini and thick soled kick ass combat boots with the laces loosely done.